Good day to you, my friends. One of the things that I would like to do, realizing that there are quite a few video clips on YouTube dealing with this subject, approached from slightly different directions, one of the things I would like to do is to explain about the use of a pendulum as a way of tapping one's own intuition. Now, I am in no way critical of approaches that other people have taken, but I have noticed several individuals recording video clips like this, in which they have said, I would like to explain how the pendulum works, and they then go on to explain what you do with it. How the pendulum works and then what you do with a pendulum are not necessarily the same thing. So before I even pick the pendulum up, I just need to cover a little bit of background so that one can understand how the pendulum actually does work. This might seem like a funny comment to make, but unfortunately it's absolutely true. There are millions of people in this world who have not taken an interest in spiritual things, or dare I use the word metaphysical things, and as a result of not taking an interest and also being swayed by the, I'm being very kind, adverse manipulation that's going on to prevent people understanding the more important things of life. People often do not understand what a human being is. In order to understand how to use a pendulum, one has to understand what this is and how it functions, at least in very basic principles. One approach I like to take, and you may think I'm deviating, but I'm not. I'm just filling in some of the background. I, on my travels, have met many people who say, this is me, I was born, I live a life, I die, this goes in the grave or gets cremated. That's the end of story. Well, that actually isn't quite true. I'm going to approach this from a slightly, you might think, unorthodox direction, but I think it might be a useful way of approaching the subject. If I go out to the local road there and I just stand on the footpath and watch the traffic, you will see, I will see, vehicles coming past, cars, lorries, motorbikes, etc., vans. Excuse me, I have a slight cough. And each one of those, let's think in terms of cars, each car is a manufactured vehicle, manufactured in a factory. When it came to the end of the assembly line, a driver got in, moved it probably to a car compound, stopped the car, got out, walked back to the factory. The car sits there motionless. The car is a vehicle which can be controlled by a driver. It's a manufactured vehicle. Made of metal, plastics, fiberglass maybe, glass in the windscreens, rubber and other materials, but it's a manufactured vehicle. What doesn't occur to a lot of people is that this thing, with its arms and its legs making this noise, this is a manufactured vehicle. It's organic, but it's still a manufactured vehicle. It was manufactured in a biochemical factory that we call the womb. And there was a stage during the pregnancy, with me as with you, where the driver got in. The driver existed before that. I don't want to go into reincarnation, or the pre-existence of the soul, as it's sometimes called. But you, the consciousness, the intelligence, the awareness part of you, that's listening through those ears, watching through those eyes, you, the conscious you, are already billions of years old. And every so often you take a new vehicle like a driver who buys a new car. The driver gets into the car, drives it for a while. It comes to the end of its useful life, or it decides he wants a new one. He drives the car to a place where he parks it. He stops the car, he gets out, walks away, the car sits motionless, the driver's still as well as ever he was. Exactly the same with you and myself. During the pregnancy in which this baby's body developed, there was a stage where mentally, consciously, I, as it were, got in. There is a beautiful phrase which is used in Star Wars Episode 1, where Obi-Wan Kenobi is actually told by his master, your focus determines your reality. And this is absolutely true. It's one of the most useful phrases I think that a human being could ever be told. Because what you focus on becomes real for you. A pessimist and an optimist stood side by side in the same world. One sees it as a nice place, the other sees it as an awful place. Which one is correct? Probably neither. The world is what the world is. Make of it what you will. And it's exactly the same in all aspects of life. Excuse me, I do apologise for the throat and the cough. When I, for example, mentally connected to this baby's body while it was still in my mother's womb, I had a shift of mental focus. And I concentrated on that baby's body to the point that when it was born, to all intents and purposes, that was me. I was that baby. But it's only because that's where my focus is, as my focus is on this body now. And it feels as though this is me. But I, mentally, consciously, I am a driver in the car. The conscious awareness is not a product of anything biochemical. It is not produced by the brain. The brain is a mental, for want of a better term, radio transmitter receiver. It picks up the conscious vibrations, converts them into electrical activity so it can cause the electrically operated muscle fibers to move in the heart, for the heart to beat, the lungs to move to enable you to breathe. And when I consciously will my arm to move, the brain picks up the conscious will for the arm to move. Electrical signals are created by the brain, which converts mental vibrations into electrical vibrations, and it causes the arm to move microsecond or even picosecond by picosecond. The subconscious mind, which is my body's operating system, operating in the background just the same as Windows or the Mac operating system on a computer. It operates in the background. You don't know what it's doing, but you type a key, something happens. You move the mouse, something happens. You don't know how to, you don't need to know how it's done. With the body, it's the same. I want to move my arm. I don't need to know what the subconscious mind does. Visually and through my sense of touch, I know that the arm is moving, because what my senses pick up is fed back into that consciousness, initially as electrical activity from the senses, converted to mental vibrations and sent into my consciousness through the subconscious mind, the body's operating system, and this is what is going on. So I, as a human being, am a driver, a mental conscious awareness, utilizing an organic vehicle that I call my body. The analogy of a computer is quite good in a number of respects. With a computer, I have one here recording this, you have the hardware which sits on the desk, and of itself it doesn't do anything, it sits there motionless. Once the operating system starts running, the operating system is able to control what is displayed on the screen, what comes out of the sound card. It controls the printer and any other external or internal output device. The computer's operating system takes input from the keyboard, from the mouse, from the microphone, because I'm recording on the computer, from any input device, a document scanner, and it knows how to process that data in order to perform the correct action with it. The same thing is happening with the human body, in that this vehicle has input devices, it has a processor, and it has output devices. In the sides of the head here, I have devices which are essentially microphones that pick up vibrations in air pressure and convert them to electrical activity, which is fed along the organic wires we call nerves into the organic processor we call the brain. It's converted into mental vibrations, which are physical energy vibrations. It's not physical. It is physical. Mental energy is just as physical as electricity, in many ways more physical. And it's fed into your basic consciousness, your normal everyday consciousness, through the subconscious mind. The eyes pick up through the light sensitive cells on the retina, picks up variations in light focused by the lens at the front. In the mouth and the nose I have chemically sensitive cells which give me smell and taste. Throughout the whole of the outside of the body and in one or two places within the body there are pressure sensitive cells which give me a sense of touch. All of those five senses produce electrical waveforms, electrical patterns, which are fed to the organic process of the brain. Okay? Now, the subconscious mind of a human being, and of course to one extent or another with animals, it acts in some ways a little bit like a nursemaid for the basic consciousness. It knows what you like and don't like, and it can filter out impressions that it's picking up through its senses that the conscious mind may not be too happy with. If you have had an accident or some unpleasant experience, the subconscious is quite capable of blocking certain memories so that it doesn't upset you or freak you out. Excuse me. And it looks after the conscious mind. If I am listening to somebody speaking and there's an aircraft, because I'm on a Heathrow flight path, if an aircraft, particularly noisy one, comes past, as I'm listening to the person, the subconscious mind filters out the noise of the aircraft largely so that I can hear what the person is saying without being distracted. And the subconscious mind has complete control over the body. It's like the computer's operating system. It doesn't have likes or dislikes. It does what it's programmed to do. In a similar way that the computer here has a broadband link to what we call the internet. So the processor in that computer can draw in information from external sources which may be quite some distance away. And it's normally referred to as a high-speed link. The body, with its operating system and its processor, it has a high-speed link connected externally. It is a magnetic pathway which is connected to the brain, and mental impressions are sent in both directions up and down this link. Within you, the individual human being, you do have physical aspects that you may not be aware of. And some of those physical aspects of you not only work at subconscious and normal consciousness levels, but can operate at super-conscious levels. And it's aspects of this super consciousness that some people refer to as intuition. In fact, you have two different physical bodies in existence now, right this second, that you may not be aware of. And they operate at a sort of lower and higher levels of super consciousness. And they're on different planes of vibration, but they do make up parts of you. And those bodies have their own sense mechanisms too, and they are picking up impressions on their own plane of existence that you, most of us anyway, will certainly not be consciously aware of. So you're picking up super conscious impressions too, not so much of this world, but higher planes of vibration. And they are accessible by the subconscious mind too. So your subconscious knows a tremendous amount about this world and the other planes that consciously you may not be aware of. It's not too easy for most people to consciously tap the intuition and to gain access to information which is being picked up, and incidentally your memories, which go back billions of years for you personally, are stored in absolute detail, picosecond by picosecond, for billions of years, and stored absolutely perfectly. A person who has a bad memory is not a person who lacks memories. It's a person who can't access their memories too easily. It's not to do with whether the memories are there. The memories are there. And maybe 10, 50, 2,000, whatever, lives down the line, you will remember far more about your past than you do now. If you're like me, you're just an ordinary person. I do remember little bits from certain past lives, but I'm not going down that path in this video clip. So your subconscious has access to a tremendous amount of information about yourself, about the environment, and about things that are happening on higher planes of vibration too. Now, one way of getting the information out from the subconscious is by telling, have a conversation with your subconscious mind. Subconscious, you will listen to me. I am consciously making a request now. Say this to yourself. Okay? I am going to ask questions and I want you to give me an answer. Now, how can the subconscious mind tell you? One of the easiest ways, the subconscious, the operating system, which will, to one extent or another, do as you tell it, depending on its past programming, it can make your muscles move. Okay, so using the eyes, look for muscle movement. Now, this takes us on to, there are a number of ways of doing this. I have got some dowsing rods. I didn't get them out of the drawer because I'm not over brilliant at using them. This, I'll deal with what this pendulum specifically is at the moment, but just the principle of using a pendulum. This is essentially a weight on a bit of floppy thread, very thin thread which moves easily. Okay? If I hold my arm out, not as some people do, but relaxed and out. Imagine water flowing down from the shoulder, and it's a nice smooth slope from the shoulder through the wrist to the fingers at the end. Hit the microphone again. Hold the pendulum between the thumb and first finger, or the thread I should say, with the other three fingers out, and this is the correct way of doing it. There are correct ways of doing it. It is a mechanical pendulum. I have seen people who have never used a pendulum before pick one up and they have, you know, like that. If it's hanging like that and you ask a question and you're looking for an answer in the movement of the pendulum, it's got to build up a movement. It's a long pendulum, it takes longer. I know people who do vitamin health foods, tissue salt analysis for others, and I've seen them use a pendulum like that, and it goes into a very fast movement. It is a mechanical pendulum. It responds like a mechanical pendulum does. The shorter the thread, the faster it will move. There are people who will insist that the pendulum has to be stationary when you first ask the question. No, it does not. It is a mechanical pendulum. Give it some momentum. Give it some energy. If you ask a question and the movement that that pendulum is making is not right, is not correct for the correct answer, the movement will change. But at least it's got the energy to move. It doesn't have to be stationary. Okay? When you want to start using a pendulum, the easiest things to deal with initially are questions that just have a yes or no answer. One or the other. Okay, I'll just move my chart out of the way a moment. I've just got a pendulum. If you don't have a correct pendulum, until such times as you get one, get a piece of sewing thread and just put a little weight of some description on the end so that you've got something. But I would recommend at the earliest opportunity, if you want to go down this path of developing your intuition consciously, is to get a correctly made pendulum. I'll come to the materials in a minute. Okay, I'm holding a pendulum in my fingers there, or dangling it from my fingers, and I'm getting mentally attuned to the concept of I am going to hold a conversation with my own subconscious mind. And you can treat it as if it's two separate people. Just make sure the pendulum is, move it down so you can see in the camera what it's doing. It's not doing anything in particular. When you pick the pendulum up and you give it a swing, yes, it's moving. If you're not thinking of a specific question, what that pendulum is doing is totally meaningless. People pick the pendulum, oh look, it's moving. It doesn't mean anything unless you're posing a question. It will move. It's a pendulum. You're not going to be able to hold your hand absolutely stationary. And any movement, the tiniest little movements here, in the wrist, and even in the fingers, will cause movement in the pendulum. And any movement is going to be amplified or exaggerated by the weight on the thread. And you see the movement through the eyes. That's how you get the answer, through the eyes, which are fed into the subconscious mind. But this time the subconscious knows. It can let the conscious mind know what the eyes are seeing. Okay, so you've got several loops of data transfer going on within the human being. If you have a long thread, pull the thread out to probably 4 or 5 inches, no more than 6 inches if you're a starter, and just put the surplus thread out of the way over the back of the hand so it doesn't get tangled with the pendulum. Now, you want to know, when you're starting, what movement means yes or no. And there are two ways of approaching it. There has to be a common understanding between the basic consciousness and the subconscious mind, which is controlling your body. So you can either tell the subconscious mind what you want to see for yes and what you want to see for no. You can say, for example, I want this to be yes, stop it. I want this to be no. Stop it. Okay? The subconscious mind then knows what to tell you for yes and what to tell you for no, because you've told it what you're looking for. What I prefer to do, because the subconscious mind controls my body, is ask it what it's going to tell me for yes and what it's going to tell me for no. And I'm doing this for real, but I've used a pendulum for some years, and so I do get a response. Let's make it just a touch shorter. I do get a response fairly quickly. I'm going to swing it away from me like that, and I'm going to do this for real. What movement, subconscious, in the pendulum means yes? And I am not consciously controlling that pendulum, and you can see on the video it's going anti-clockwise. When you finish with a question, touch the pendulum. Run your fingers off the bottom of the pendulum, touch it. End of that question. You're now clean to start the next question. What movement of the pendulum means no? And I get a clockwise rotation. I always do. Some people will get a different motion every time they do it. So if you're not sure what the movement will mean, ask it and see what it does, so that there's no doubt in your mind when the pendulum does that it's telling you yes, telling you no. Okay, I know what day of the week it is. Is it Monday today? No. Is it Friday today? Yes. Okay, and it's as simple as that. Now, there are some points you need to bear in mind. One is you are holding a conversation, although the reply is visual, you are holding a conversation with your own subconscious mind. It's not involving anybody else. Okay, it's just you, but at different levels of conscious awareness. So when the subconscious mind is trying to cause a movement in the pendulum, let it. Do not consciously try and make the pendulum give you the answer that you want. One of the tricks is to consciously detach from what the pendulum is doing. Like when you ask a person a question, you don't try and influence them, you let them say what they want to say. You do the same with the pendulum. Let your subconscious say what it wants to say. Most of the time, it will give you an answer which will be helpful. You cannot guarantee that the pendulum will be 100% accurate, certainly not all the time. I've known experts who say, well, it's probably right 75, maybe if I'm lucky 80% of the time. But the point is, even if it's not 100% correct, it can give you a useful indication. And have the attitude, this is a toy. Treat it as such. Do not use it with too serious an attitude. It's a toy. Play with it. And if you have that attitude, you should be fine. So detach from the movement. Don't take it too seriously. And the other thing is, of course, there are certain areas of questioning that you avoid. Do not ask a question with which you are emotionally involved. I remember my favourite science fiction writer, Isaac Asimov. He wrote many years ago a series of robot stories, and he realized that there would be a problem for the robots in deciding what they should do in respect of instructions they've been given. You may be familiar with the 3 laws of robotics. A robot must never harm a human being, or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. A robot must always obey a human being unless it conflicts with the first law. And a robot must always protect itself, providing that doesn't conflict with the first and second laws. But you see, there are loopholes in that. If a robot knows that you don't like something, and you ask it a question, or ask it to do something, and what the robot does as a result of that might be something you don't like, what does the robot do? Because it has to obey you, but it can't hurt you. Now, the first law is that it can't hurt you. So in order to answer the question without hurting you, it has to lie. You see, and it has to break the second law. It's obeying you in as much as it's doing its best to follow your instructions. But it can't do it 100% because it would conflict with the first law. You have the same problem with your subconscious mind if you're asking emotional questions. Does my girlfriend love me? Well, you want her to love you, or your boyfriend. You know, so your subconscious mind won't hurt you if it can avoid it. So it may give you the answer that you want in order not to hurt you. But it's not the right answer. No, she doesn't. Not really. And so you've got to avoid that. If you want to ask a question down those lines, which is really not a good idea, but if you did, get somebody else who's not emotionally involved to ask the question for you with their pendulum. So their response is not an emotional involvement. Okay, not emotionally involved. You know what I mean? And the other thing, of course, is don't ask a question in which you are trying to take advantage of someone. What are the lottery numbers? You know, is it 1? Yes or no? Is it 2? Yes or no? Is it 3? Yes or no? You know, the subconscious mind is an operating system, a level of conscious awareness, that if it realizes that you need to learn a lesson, for your benefit, it will put you through the lessons. And if you ask a question which is inappropriate, it may purposely give you the wrong answer to teach you don't ask that. So you can guarantee, if I ask what the lottery numbers are, I'll get every single one of them wrong, because my subconscious won't let me get away with it. It's unfair on other people, okay? So you've now got to a stage where you can hold the pendulum, give it a swing. Between questions, just run your hand off the pendulum, and Then ask the next question. Yes or no? Yes or no? There may be times where you want to ask a question which is not yes or no, not black and white, something which has a degree in it. I should have actually got a book ready. I'm just bear with 1 second. I should have prepared myself for this. Okay, I'm just looking for something I can use as an example. Okay, this is from my printer, but imagine this is a book. Okay, it's not, but imagine it's a book. I've got 20 minutes, you know, before I have to go and do something. I'd like to do some reading. Now I've got 2 books. What book shall I read in that time that's available? I've got 2. This is the first book. Okay, I'll show you an easy way of doing this. This is a chart which I have made up. Let me move my hand away from the middle. Which I made up years ago, and it's extremely useful because it's got yes and no divisions, that way and there. And if you look along the top from this side, it's got a scale going from 0 to 100, and you can use that as a percentage chart. And it's an easy way. I put the chart there, swing the pendulum. If it's a yes or no answer, swing the pendulum down the middle. Is it Friday today? Yes. Is it Monday today? No. You see, and then you can see it's written yes, no, so I know. Okay, this is a book. I've only got 20 minutes spare. What percentage of benefit, you know, a relative figure, what percentage of benefit will I get, swing it across the base of this diagram, will I get from this book? And on the 100% scale, it's going to about 60-65%, something like that. Okay, you pick up the other book. What percentage of benefit will I get from this book? 35-40%. Okay, I'll read the other one. Okay, and it's a quick way of checking something where you have a degree involved rather than yes or no, and you can use that for a whole host of things. Okay, so that is all I'm going to deal with in for questioning, and I'm going to finish this because it can drag on quite quickly. The time does go on. Is material. When you're asking questions which are purely yes or no, or something like with the book, yes, it's nice to have a pendulum that's made of the right stuff, but you're really visually just looking at an indicator, so technically it really doesn't matter what it's made of, because it's just an indicator that you're looking at visually. But when you come, as I have done, I did quite a bit of research as far as subtle energies are concerned with Stonehenge, and I came to some very interesting conclusions. But there you're dealing with frequencies of energy, qualities of energy, as well as directions of energy flow. And you're picking up energies. Now, as you know, a pyramid is an energy collecting device. The Giza pyramid and that sort of shape with a square base and those particular angles is very undiscriminating and will draw to itself any energies, magnetic energies that are in the area. And it's undiscriminating. Everything will be drawn into it. Okay? If you change the shape of the base, say triangular base or a circular base, making a cone, or you make the apex angle narrower, you know, a smaller angle, the shape becomes more discriminating, and you learn through experience with such things which shapes are better for certain types of things. The pendulum, correctly made, is a cone, and it's a narrow cone, so it's a very discriminating shape. However, it is actually made of, this particular one, of beechwood. And the reason why it is beechwood is because when you're dealing with magnetic energies, subtle energies that have a frequency of vibration, the atomic structure of the pendulum can alter energies you're picking up. Now what happens is, as I'm sure you all know, the body has energy chakras, or psychic centers, power centers in the body, and there's one associated with the palm of each hand. When you hold the pendulum like that, the energies hit the slope of the pendulum and curve upwards into the thread. This is silk thread, which is a good conductor of energy, of subtle energies. The energies flow up the thread over the surface of the fingers into the chakra of the hand, and the subconscious mind can analyze the energies you're picking up. If you use the wrong material, some people use metal, some people use crystal, you have to bear in mind when you get into very specific energy related questions, you have to know what that pendulum's substance and the thread or chain that some use, what effect it will have on those energies, because by the time it gets here it's going to be different and you get a wrong assessment of it. I use beechwood for everything because it does not affect anything I'm picking up. So if I'm taking energy into the chakra to be assessed, the pendulum doesn't alter it. Now, I have a dear friend, Elaine, whom I love very dearly. It's actually my ex-wife, but we're closer since we went our separate ways than ever we were when we were married. But one of the presents that she gave me was a crystal, a quartz pendulum on a chain. And I love you, dear Elaine, but I never use this. It's a novelty. The reason I don't use it is it's quartz. And any energies picked up on that will be affected by the atomic vibration of the quartz. Some of the energy picked up will get stored within the quartz. So energies that are picked up not only have to flow through the atomic structure of the quartz, but are affected by the energy that's already stored in there, that is not easy to get it out. Then you have a chain, which is metal, and it's a series of links. Links. So it's not continuous. The energy has to jump across the gaps of the links as it goes up. I found out years ago that in the same way that with electricity, you have insulating materials and you have conducting materials. So you do with subtle energies. And if you take something like quartz, yes, and a whole host of different materials, they will conduct subtle energies quite well. Most metals don't. Metals are an insulator. You've got an insulator between the pendulum that's picking up the energies and your chakra. So that energy gets diminished in strength as it goes up because it's got to fight its way up through material that doesn't conduct energy very well. It has to flow along the surface of the chain, but there are gaps all the way between link and link and link and link. There are hundreds of gaps there that it has to cross, or where the links come together. So if you're a starter, use a wooden pendulum. You don't have any problems with it. I tongue-in-cheek, and I'm not criticizing, it's just my humor. I often think, especially with seasoned psychics or fairground psychics, and this is not a criticism, that very often the substance of the pendulum, whether it be brass, gold, silver, or some crystalline structure, is more to do with the character of the psychic than it is to do with functionality. I use a wooden pendulum. I'm not ashamed of the fact. It works well. Why should I change to anything else? So this is the pendulum. It's known as a radionic pendulum. Radionics is the study of subtle energies as opposed to electronics, which is the study of electron flow or electrical phenomena. So that is how to get started and some of the background. I could say a tremendous amount more, but already this video is getting a little lengthy, so I'm going to call it quits, and I hope you've gained something from that. Thank you, my dear friends. I send love and blessings to you all. Thank you.